Okay, Shana Tova. There's like a million of you. Come on, Shana Tova. All right. All right. I always wonder, can like the back row raise their hand? That way I know that the sound is making it all the way back there. All right. That's a good sign. Great. I want to begin by telling you that in fact I love my job, but it is a really weird job. I spend every day really having no idea how the day is going to go. Someone stops and says, Rabbi, I have to ask you a question. And I could get anything from what is the blessing you say after you go to the bathroom on up to where do we go after we pass and everything in between. And I find myself in some of the more bizarre situations, so I should probably not have been as surprised as I was that this summer I spent a whole weekend in a phone and text conversation about Bradley Cooper's nose. Now, I have to tell you that Bradley Cooper is an attractive guy. I can imagine talking about Bradley Cooper. Not so much his nose, but Bradley Cooper is about to star in a biopic about Leonard Bernstein, and in the movie, he chose to wear a prosthetic nose. So when this was revealed, if you're on social media, perhaps you saw it was a torrent. The hashtag was Jewface. Unacceptable. He was playing into Jewish stereotypes. It was awful. And then a few days later, Leonard Bernstein's children released a statement saying, actually, he worked really hard with us to try and really capture the essence of Leonard Bernstein, our dad, and our dad had a big honking nose. I think that's a direct quote. And then other leaders said, that's actually, they don't get to decide what's anti-Semitism or not. And in fact, I did not know this until a congregant pointed it out to me, that while Jews are known for Hollywood, that a lot of that success is behind the camera, either as producers or agents or directors. But actually, Jewish people have had a lot of trouble getting in front of the camera, especially if they are outwardly Jewish. And there's been perhaps a trend of those that are getting fewer and fewer roles. And on top of that, we live in a moment where I really just want to say, come on. Like, you're in a room, you look at the world around you, and you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm playing a Jew. I'll put a fake nose on. Like, there are those out there, of course, who will understand, and I believe that Bradley Cooper really trying to embrace this guy, Leonard Bernstein, who is a Jewish person with a big nose and trying to play him right. But we live in a world where lots of people are filled with such hate that they will take this as a sign and say, yeah, the Jews are terrible. Look at that big nose. Bradley Cooper gets it. He's with us. It's not a great look. He could have made a better choice. And so we live at a weird moment where this is a conversation that we have. And I think to understand the moment, we really need another body part. No jokes. We need Tevye's hand. Tevye famously in Fiddler on the Roof says on the one hand, on the other hand, and he gets to about 6 hands. So I'm going to share 6 on the other hands to try and even complicate the moment even farther. We're over here, sorry. First, on the one hand, things are pretty bad. According to the ADL, in 2022, there were 3,697 anti-Semitic incidents, which is a 36% increase from 2021, and 2021 was already the largest number of recorded anti-Semitic incidents in America in the ADL's history, and it's an increase in every major category: harassment, vandalism, and assault. By all accounts, things are looking pretty bleak. On the other hand, we live at a moment that even with these difficult rising anti-Semitism, universally and bipartisanly, the government still passes every MOU and bill supporting Israel, sending Israel the money for Iron Dome, sending Israel the money it needs to defend itself, supporting its military. There's information sharing. There is, of course, some tension at the moment, but still, on all of the major issues, we live at a moment where our country supports the Jewish homeland. And on the other hand, we also live at a moment in America where across the board, more people on surveys about their religion are selecting none than ever before. More people than ever are saying, I'm not part of any religion, and that affects the Jewish people as well. Across the board, involvement and engagement is down, and in the conservative movement is perhaps the worst of all. We have the fewest members. Really? It didn't break. Sorry. Apparently, it likes the conservative movement, my Taurus. All right, there we go. The conservative movement has the fewest members since perhaps World War II. And on top of it, we see a shrinking engagement and shrinking involvement. On the other hand, here at the Woodbury Jewish Center, things are great. We're growing in every demographic across the board. We have more programming, involvement, engagement, volunteers in every way. The only way we're not growing is physically in our building. And if you're interested, I have a few ideas. On the other hand, if you look around at every single DEI program, every problem, every challenge to try and engage the minorities, disenfranchised groups, at best, they ignore the Jewish people, and at worst, they actively ostracize them. On the other hand, if you look at our history, we still live at a moment where we, as Jews and America, have more freedom and more safety almost than any other time in our history. We have access to every level of secular life. We are gathered here. There's, I'm going to say, 6,000 people in this room. Rabbis count terribly. And we are able to gather here free, and the police, the government, support us to make sure we can do that in the safest way possible. That is amazing and unheard of in Jewish history. So how do we manage? Are we at a moment where we should live in fear and dread of the rising tide of anti-Semitism and difficulties for Jews in America? Are we at a moment where we should stand with pride of all the great, amazing things that are possible for Jews in America? Of course, the answer is both. But if that was all I had, it wouldn't be enough. Those of you who have been waiting, here comes my three. I have 3 pillars, 3 suggestions of ideas, concepts to hold on to when we feel this crush, this tension between these 2 opposite ideas of what it is to be a Jew in America at this moment. Pride in our Judaism, mitzvot, and a reminder that we are the chosen people. I'll start with pride. This morning, Farah Bersi, who led us in the Pezukei de Zimra, began with the 14 morning blessings. We say these blessings every morning in every service all across the world, and each of them, their point is to thank God for daily miracles. Thank you, God, for giving us clothing to wear, for opening our eyes, for being able to breathe, wake up, and eat, the very fundamentals of life. And one of them is thank you, God, for making me a Jew. That our tradition understands that the fact that we are Jewish is on par with a miracle as getting up and being able to breathe in the morning. That is what we need in this moment, pride and in our own Jewishness. And in fact, it helped me to understand something I've never understood about our people. Jewish coffee table books. If you go to Barnes & Noble, or if there's any more Borders anywhere, I don't know if they still exist. Mark says no, so don't go to Borders. You will find in the Jewish section a whole shelf of books that say something like this: the 100 most influential Jewish doctors, the 100 people in film and screen, the 100 Jewish women who affected the world's Nobel laureates are mostly Jewish, on, and we put them on our coffee tables, and I'll be honest, I've never understood them. I mean, they seem nice, that's great, but in this moment, as we look at so many who tell us it's not okay to be Jewish, so many who tell us that we are the cause of the problems, that our very successes are proof that we are vile and evil, it is a reminder that these books are there to tell us something that I'm going to translate roughly from the Talmud and from our history. We're awesome! It's great to be a Jew. Clearly, our culture, tradition, our focus on education, on who we are as a people, has bound us together, has given us the possibility to overcome absurd obstacles and to do and create great things. There's a story about the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim used to travel from place to place and give speeches, and he was really well known. It's about the turn of the last century, so there were trains, but this is going to blow some of your younger people's minds. There was no social media, meaning that people knew the words of the Chavetz Chaim, but not what he looked like. So the Chavetz Chaim's on this train, sitting next to, we'll call him Shmuli. Shmuli is on the way to hear the Chavetz Chaim, and they start schmoozing. And the Chavetz Chaim says, what are you on the train for? And Shmuli says, I'm going to see the Chavetz Chaim. The Chavetz Chaim is sitting next to him. And as a moment, Shmuli says, you don't understand, the Chavetz Chaim is the best. He's amazing. When you hear him speak, he lifts you up. Now the Chavetz Chaim starts to get uncomfortable and says, he's not that great, he's just a guy. And the guy goes on, and the Chavetz Chaim tries to deflect more and more, and the guy gets furious. And he gets so mad, he decks the Chavetz Chaim. The train conductor comes and separates them. A day later, it's time for the speech, and the guy is bragging to his friends. Some guy was trying to insult the Chavetz Chaim, but I took care of him. And then, up to the podium comes the Chavetz Chaim with a black eye. The guy tries to melt into nothingness. He feels like what a terrible person he is. And the Chavetz Chaim begins by saying, obviously you notice I have a black eye. I want you to know that I did this to myself. That when we speak of Lashon Hara, we often talk about making sure we don't say cruel things about the other, that we lift each other up, but sometimes we forget to do that to ourselves. Sometimes we let others' praise hide away. We get uncomfortable when people say nice things about us. We, as the Jewish people, double down. We often, this Jewish person did X. We sort of cringe. I hope no one notices they're Jewish. Now is the moment where we go the other direction and say how amazing it is that the Jewish people helped that person get where they are. Let me be straight. We got plenty of schmucks in our people. But on the whole, our accomplishments, the things that we have done, what it means to be a Jew is exactly what the rabbis understood, a miracle from God. We should be proud to be Jewish. The second is the next step. Because pride actually isn't enough, because if all we feel is pride, we sort of hold on to air. We as Jews, one of the things that makes us great is our mitzvot, the Jewish things that we do. There was this moment after the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. The entire Jewish people did Jewish by going to the temple and offering sacrifices. And when the temple was destroyed, two groups of people said, we're the next step now that the temple is around. And one said, it's all you have to do is believe in God. And those people became Christianity. The rabbis, who led to the next stage in Jewish evolution, said it's actually not enough to just believe. You have to do Jewish things. You have to do mitzvot. The miracle of the Jewish people is not Sinai or the splitting of the sea, though those are amazing and great things. The miracle of the Jewish people is that despite the horrors we have faced, that we have found a way to stay together. That when we light Shabbat candles, we draw other Jews together. When we lay tefillin in the morning, we can't help but know we're part of the Jewish tradition. When we eat a kosher steak, we know that the absurdity that brought it there, and the many layers of people watching it and checking, and it was killed in just the right way, that the reason for that is because doing it the Jewish way has allowed us to maintain our Jewish people. And if you want proof of what exactly I mean, there is a whole almost genre of stories from the Holocaust of people in the camps who found ways to live their Jewish life, who used the one match they had for a Hanukkah menorah, who gathered at the time they guessed it was Purim to tell the story of Esther. And there's one story I heard a survivor tell. They happened to be in the camp with their rabbi. And they noticed, they didn't have calendars, they didn't have clocks, they didn't know, but they noticed it was turning from summer to fall. And this Jewish person in the camp, on a crust of bread and some watered-down coffee, said to his rabbi, "When does the fast start?" When does the fast start? Pride in being Jewish is great, but it's the Jewish things that hold us even at our darkest moments, and we need them in our moments full of the most amount of light, because that's how they're there for us when we need them. The next thing on our list is to do Jewish things, to engage with Jewish life. The third is another concept I'm always pretty deeply uncomfortable with. Every time someone says the Jews are the chosen people, I sort of cringe. It feels paternalistic, it feels patronizing, or they double down and say Jews are supposed to be an or lagoyim, a light unto the nation. It makes me think we're supposed to go around and tell everyone how great we are, how we're better than they are. Look, you should be like us. You can just imagine those conversations, they're not going to go well. But I realized I actually was adding my own interpretation, that I took an extra step that the text doesn't. It doesn't say we should be a preacher unto the nations. It doesn't say we should give sermons unto the nations. It says we should be a light unto the nations. It says that we should live in such a way that perhaps we can inspire others. And in fact, it flips the concept of chosenness. When we think of being chosen, we think of all the great benefits that would come with a promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, relationship with God, special status. But if you look at our history from the time of the Torah, it's clear that's not what we're chosen for. We're not chosen for greatness and success and power and might, but we are chosen not for greatness, but for goodness. We are chosen to live the kind of life that we are proud of. A friend of mine is a Jewish person, and she has a non-Jewish group of friends, and one of them got ill. And she said, they're ill, they need help. We're all over the country, but we can organize a meal train. And she set up a website and said everyone how they could sign up and send meals and figured it out. And her non-Jewish friend said, "How did you know how to do this?" And she said, "How did you not know how to do this? Isn't this just what you do?" We were chosen for goodness, to be there for each other, to understand responsibility. There is a reason that an absurd percentage of charity in the U.S. comes from Jewish pockets, well outpacing the percentage of Jewish population. The challenge of the third principle is to remember that we are chosen not to be great and better, we were chosen to be good. We live at a moment that is a real quagmire, a paradox. Things are both terrible. Really and truly, my friends who have always said anti-Semitism isn't really a thing are afraid. But we also live at a moment where there is Jewish freedom, Jewish power, Jewish might in so many ways. And when we confront this paradox, this conflicting truth, I wish us the strength to remember that being Jewish is a miracle from God and we should feel proud. To remember that when we are unsure, our best option is to engage in Jewish life, do Jewish things, do mitzvot. And third, to remember always that we may not be chosen for greatness, but hopefully we can live a life in which we are chosen for goodness. Shana Tova. We have lollipops. Those parents who have their kids downstairs, we have about 10 minutes until the close. We'll get started with the repetition in just a moment.